The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ. And we started exactly on time.
Yeah, 11 o'clock. Yeah, our old time slot.
Our old time
We're
slot.
filming our old time slot.
This is only a one-time deal for now.
Wednesday.
It's only a one-time deal.
It's Wednesday in the rib, and so now it's time for Commander COVID.
Oh, no, not those numbers again. That's going to be tough. All right.
Yes.
In Massachusetts, we have 123,425 cases. Total new cases was 286. Total deaths is 9,016. Total new deaths is 6. Bristol County has 9,565. Now, here's where we get interesting. Yesterday, Fall River had 2,021 confirmed positive cases of COVID-19, which is an increase from yesterday of 8 cases. We have not been notified of any additional fatalities, keeping us now at 131. The numbers keep going up in these. We had double digit on Monday because we didn't get a report on Friday, which kind of bothered me. But it was what it was. And I'm wondering, because today is the day that the state comes out with the designations of COVID status, and will we be declared a red zone, or are we going to stay in the yellow zone? It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see. And that report won't come out until after 6 o'clock. So if you want to see what happens, go to Spindle City Straight Talk and look at the numbers.
Yes, and we've got a few things brewing today. I know you were doing some investigative reporting earlier today.
Yes, I was.
Doing a little research, and so there is something on the horizon possibly, and our sources have given us I don't know, what do we classify this rumor as? Class A or B?
I'd give it a Class A. I'd give it a Class A. No question about it. I'd give it a Class A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
but before we go anywhere, I wanted to go into something that was very interesting. Yesterday, the Health Insurance Commission had a meeting, and the average increase of health insurance costs are going to be 8% in Massachusetts. Although I've seen some increases as high as 14%. And here's the thing. They made a profit. They actually made a profit on COVID-19 because nobody was using healthcare. And even though they made a profit, they say they need an increase. And here's the reason they need the increase. Because nobody was using healthcare during the COVID crisis. All those cases are now going to be used now, which you and I spoke about in a previous show. They're going to be used now, increasing utilization of healthcare services, and thereby increasing the cost of the services provided. So they need to have an increase. You and I both know they need to have an increase, whether or not there's going to be an increase in services. It's all about money.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we're segueing into the fact that I just left the healthcare meeting at City Hall and battling the forces of evil that are always trying to screw the people. But we know that healthcare continuously escalates, and we know that the billing is cyclical, especially when you're a self-insurer. And we know that there's going to be a spike because of COVID. People couldn't get elective surgeries and things like that. And that's what really disturbs me. You just said that the average was 8%, yet Fall River, the increase was only basically 5.7 with a fudge factor. And so we were running well under budget, and that's what disturbed me. And I I basically vented that anger this morning at the meeting, reminding them that they came after trying to hurt people by shifting the costs into the average person's pocket when there was no reason to do so. And it was a rather contentious kind of meeting because, frankly, I'm sick and tired of the city not following the rules. The rules are that if they're going to change the plans, we have to be informed. The mechanism, in case you guys want to read it, and you know that I'm not just making this stuff up. It's Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23. And in that section, mostly 22, but 21 basically shows you how it's structured. 23 kind of wraps it up. But basically, it's in Section 22. It tells you the mechanism when a community wants to change the plan. There is a specific procedure to be followed. And as usual, Fall River never abides by any law that interferes with their agenda. And in this case, I reminded them today that if they're going to do anything like that, they better follow the protocols. Otherwise, they're going to be in court. So that's just another saga in the ongoing saga of As the Stomach Turns in Fall River. So
that's interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you want to discuss your research or you want to wait until we get confirmation or the allegation of. I'll leave that up to you since it was your research this morning.
I spoke with the mayor about it this morning, and as he said to me very clearly that he cannot make comments on personnel issues. And I don't feel that it's appropriate at this point in time for us to come out with some allegations that the mayor claims he has no idea about, that without giving him the opportunity to investigate that issue, and also to potentially destroy somebody's career, although the individual can be abrasive at times. So I just want to make that very clear. But I do have to say that I'm getting reports right now from City Councilor Chris Peckham and from other sources within the school department that the school department is aware of all the difficulties that the system is currently having today, because today is the first day of remote learning school, and they're trying to work on resolving all these issues. But they are aware that there are a lot of issues, some of which I personally believe are parent-generated issues. But again, that's another story. But they are aware of them, and they are working on them, and all they're asking is that you please be patient. So at least we know that.
Oh, so City Councilor Peckham is updating on the school department? Okay.
Yeah, he's become a school committeeman. It's very interesting. Now, Chris has got his hands a little bit in everything, which is, I don't know if he, oversteps his authority or whatnot, but I think it's good that he's actually involved in a lot of the things that happen. See, the problem was that for the past...
it's nice to be concerned, but...
Go ahead. Well, the thing is
I'm not getting your audios.
Okay, well, I said go ahead, but over the past couple of days.
Oh, okay. I wasn't getting your audio, but as I said, it's nice to be concerned, but I'm not sure if the city council would take umbrage if a couple of school committee came over and started sitting in at their meetings and trying to put their 2 cents in. So, but that's a political turf war. As far as I'm concerned, all the politicians we've got issues with them remembering they represent the people, not specific groups but all the people, and they are at all times our agents and our substitutes. But then again, there I go again, quoting the damn Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Damn, that thing always just gets in the way. But like everything else, politicians trample over the Constitution all the time. They only use it when they want to. And now in this nation, we have no freedom of speech unless it's the speech that they want. And otherwise, it's okay for you to be murdered because you're a fascist and They put a label on your head, then they can shoot you. So the country is becoming unraveled at warp factor. So I don't know where to go with that one, because it's disappointing to see the United States fundamentally in some areas being turned into a third world country, a area of lawlessness and stuff. It's kind of like Somalia, and where the tribes rule. You know, you go to Mogadishu and see what happens over there, and people driving around the streets in Jeeps with guns, and what disturbs me more is the justification of murder. The justification of murder. A Rhode Island college professor said it was okay to assassinate somebody because they're a fascist. People seem to be able to think it's okay to murder police officers just because they're police officers, and then say, we hope you die, or attempt to murder. And that's just, it's uncivilized. It's not even, there's no description for how reprehensible that behavior is. And unfortunately, the mainstream media is not really hammering this point about this. As a matter of fact, they're doing everything they can to minimize this and diminish it, and try to make this look like it's a relative rarity, and it's not. And it's only going to get worse. I mean, I can't even imagine what's going to happen on November 4th if Trump gets elected in the blue states. There'll be total chaos. It'll be like, I don't know. It'll be like Mad Max. Remember the movie Mad Max, where they're in a post-apocalyptic dystopian society?
Two men go in, one
everybody
man comes out. Two men go in, one man comes out.
I'll tell you. Yeah, that's it. But hey, it is what it is. And but I don't know what else is going on in Fall River today. It's actually Fall River, in comparison to other communities now in this country, has become fairly quiet. I haven't heard of a stabbing or a murder or anything in a while, and that's good. And the only bad thing we've had is we're showing the impact of this COVID and these shutdowns by these, they like to blame everything on the federal government, but it's the individual states and their shutdown mandates, mostly in the blue states. And look, two of the greatest icons of our area are being closed down. The Venus de Milo is being closed after 60 years in business. And the old Grist Mill is up for sale. And that's terrible. I mean, the Venus de Milo was, it was kind of like the American, a true American success story. Monty Ferris Sr. used to work in a dye house. Worked in a dye house. And used to go to the Fall River Boys Club Senior Division to take a shower after work because he lived in a cold water flat. And he saved his money and opened up some bowling alleys. And then he ultimately, after he opened up 3 bowling alleys, he opened up the Venus de Milo because somebody gave him the idea that, well, since you got bowling leagues, why don't you do the bowling banquets? And that turned into the Venus de Milo, and he became a very wealthy man, gave a lot of money back to charity, especially Danny Thomas. And he was a great man. He had a picture in his office, a caricature of himself with a slogan I'll never forget. It had dollar bills flying around, and the caption on the caricature was, "If you were born a penny, you'll never be a silver dollar." And the reason that to him meant that you should never forget who you are and where you came from. And Monty Sr. never, ever forgot that. He always helped the people he grew up with who were in need, donated to charities, and it's really a tragic thing to see a place like that, an icon of this area, a jewel, have to be shut down. And it's terrible. And I know a lot of people who worked at the Venus de Milo. I used to go there and dine on a regular basis. It was Emeril Lagasse worked there. It was one of his first jobs. So it's a shame to see, and also the Grist Mill, which is a very, very fine eatery. Went to the Grist Mill many times, and of course, I guess Monty at his press conference said it was COVID. You just couldn't take the hit, and it's a very big building with a lot of employees, so they got a big payroll, and I guess they can't make enough to keep a big occupancy like that. But the Grist Mill had the big fire. They had to rebuild the building, so I'm sure they were in debt because of the rebuilding. And now with having their business cut by 3/4, they just weren't generating enough revenue, because not only don't get a lot of people into the restaurant, a lot of people just are afraid to go out to eat. They're still in fear to go out to restaurants. So it's just a shame. It's a sad commentary that an economy that was doing so well was decimated by this virus, and really decimated by the government, because I saw a piece on Sweden. They never shut down anything, nothing,
Right.
And they have one of the lowest COVID rates in the world.
Yeah,
and
well,
so it's a shame to see those two places. Huh?
While you're speaking about that, a federal judge recently rendered a decision in civil action number 2-20-CV-677. The Honorable William S. Strickman rendered a decision on the case of the County of Butler et al., that's Pennsylvania, versus Thomas W. Wolf et al., which is the defendant. Thomas Wolf is the governor of Pennsylvania. And I'm just going to read the conclusion that the judge wrote. The court closes this opinion as it began by recognizing that defendants' actions at issue here were undertaken with the good intentions of addressing a public health emergency. But even in an emergency, the authority of government is not unfettered. The liberties protected by the Constitution are not fair weather freedoms in place when times are good, but able to be cast aside in times of trouble. There is no question that this country has faced and will face emergencies of every sort. But the solution to a national crisis can never be permitted to supersede the commitment to individual liberty that stands as the foundation of the American experiment. The Constitution cannot accept the concept of a new normal where the basic liberties of the people can be subordinated to open-ended emergency mitigation measures. Rather, the Constitution sets certain lines that may not be crossed even in an emergency. Actions taken by the defendant, that's the governor, cross those lines. And it is the duty of the court to declare those actions unconstitutional. Thus, consistent with the reasons set forth above, the court will enter judgment in favor of the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs were complaining that the governor's orders to close down bars, restaurants, and businesses and the state was unconstitutional. A federal judge, has now upheld the ruling that a governor does not have the authority to close down the state. Does not. So I wonder what Governor Baker is going to do now that this decision's been rendered, because Pennsylvania has its hands tied, and the only appeal to that right now is to the Supreme Court of the United States. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Well, I don't think Charlie's going to be too worried, CJ, because he figures we've got a bunch of left-wing liberal judges in Massachusetts, and he figure there have been some rulings to the contrary in other states, in blue states, and therein lies the problem. But can you send me that opinion, please, because I really want to excerpt that and use it, because I think that judge is right on target because, listen, you and I have always been constitutionalists. We've read the Massachusetts Constitution, the United States Constitution on our show probably ad nauseum. But the reality is, it's true. This country is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is a government of men, as it says. And, and it is a government of the governed. And it is, the government does not have the right to deny you your freedom because that is a guarantee. And even as he said, and even in times of emergency, you have to draw the line. The government cannot take over your life. This is the reason this country was created. The governor is not a king. King George tried that, and look how it worked out for him. You see, you can't do this. And I truly believe that Americans have the right. And if people understood that, we wouldn't have these, well, they are not people of they are not really part of the republic, these anarchists. They're socialists and Marxists. And in those governments, if you disagree with the state, you're either thrown in a work camp or you're executed. So this is the way they think now. They think it's okay to execute human beings because they're wearing a uniform or because they have a different opinion. That is not what America is about. And anybody that supports that movement and has those ideas, they're truly not Americans, as far as I'm concerned, because America is about, as sometimes, as much as it will not make you happy, you have to listen to somebody. The American Nazi Party has the right to spew their BS. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to like it, but we have to recognize their right to say it. Now, if they attempt to try to impose those things on us, well, then they're going to be in violation of laws. This is why this is a nation of laws based on a constitution that gives people the freedom of expression in all facets of their life. And this is one of the problems that we're seeing today in America. And for the mainstream media to basically turn a blind eye to this or try to minimize it in their coverage. I mean, for God's sakes, we just had a peace accord in the Middle East.
Right.
I mean, and if you looked at some of the mainstream media, it was like a secondary story. They stuck it like on a 9th page. It was, they had somebody else talking about COVID for half an hour and kind of had a 2-minute blurb of them signing a peace accord in the Middle East. That's absurd. That's absurd. And they're diminishing it. And for Mary, I'm thinking about the city again. You know who I'm talking about. For Nancy Pelosi to call a peace accord in the Middle East a distraction is absurd, because in reality, if anything's being used as a political distraction, it's the COVID virus by the Democratic Party.
Well, that peace accord was between the United Arab Emirates and Israel, and that's a big, 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 big success. I mean, they've been fighting for years on having a success between Israel and the Arab countries, and we finally gotten to a point now, and now you have other countries that want to sign on to that same accord. I mean, this is what this president has done, but they're not saying that. They're not saying that this was a great thing that he's done, but it is. I mean, let's be fair, okay? If President Obama, if President Bush, if President Kennedy, if any other president had done this, it would have been the front page story, the first story you saw on the national news. That would be it. That would be the big story. They didn't even give it, a second-rate story, and they gave it a blurb of 1 second or so, and that was it. And that meant more to the Mideast than did COVID. So,
yeah, you're right. And look, it's so disturbing, especially that they put Nancy Pelosi on television, because I don't know how many people even now give her any credibility. She has zero credibility because, I mean, every time I see Nancy Pelosi, I see her sitting in a chair and the hairdresser's getting her hair done, eating her $15 a pint ice cream. So, I mean, for me to take her as someone who really cares about the American people is ridiculous. And, and to be saying that this is a distraction. I mean, what has it been, 79 years or something like that since some of these Emirates have been involved in any kind of productive talks with the state of Israel? I mean, it's mind-boggling. I mean, this is so insignificant a story that Donald Trump's been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. That's how insignificant this is, Nancy. I know you running out of ice cream and not getting your hair dyed is far more important. But let's face it. I mean, you're really insulting people's intelligence by coming out with some of the stuff that comes out of your mouth. It's incredible. You have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, whether you like them or don't like them. I mean, you can dislike, somebody. It's like saying Ted Williams in the old days. I remember people a lot of people, reporters didn't like Ted Williams because he had a very short fuse when it came to reporters. He didn't give interviews. He was kind of a misanthrope. He didn't like them. Didn't like people in general. He was kind of a loner. But to say that Ted Williams wasn't, if not the greatest all-around hitter in the history of baseball, I mean, you got your head so far up your derriere, you can't breathe. And I am not a Red Sox fan, but I give credit where credit is due. I mean, when you talk about Ted Williams, you're talking about probably the greatest pure hitter that ever lived in baseball. You got to give credit where you didn't have to like Muhammad Ali or his political stances, but you had to give credit to his boxing ability. So this is the thing. This society, if they dislike you, you don't get credit for anything. You could cure cancer. If Trump cured cancer tomorrow, Pelosi would call it a distraction. So, I rest my case for Nancy.
The thing is that you're right. You're absolutely 100% right. And, this president hasn't gotten credit for anything he's done, but he's been blamed for everything that he hasn't done. So I'm not saying that this president is, the be-all, end-all of presidents for the United States. I'm also not saying he's not worth any time. He's done some good things, and you have to give him credit, as you said, where credit is due. You cannot just say we're only going to give credit to good presidents that we believe are good presidents, and anyone we believe are bad presidents, we're not going to give them any credit. They're just a distraction. Well, you know what's a distraction? A distraction is the fact that you cannot give somebody credit for something you would have given a previous president credit for, and that's a big distraction. You're distracting the people from what this country is about, okay? And we need to recognize that. And as you said, he's been recognized for a Nobel Peace Prize for his actions. So obviously, it's not much of a distraction. Well, it looks like we're out of time. We only got a few seconds left. I want to thank you all for inviting us into your home. Please, thank you for watching. If you got problems with the school department, call Chris Peckham. I'm sure he'll help you. And remember, stay safe and stay angry.
Good one. Stay very angry.